I picked them to be in the Super Bowl last year before the season. Okay, like this is me owning something, but like you don't know, you can't say for sure that I'm wrong because I think Aaron Rodgers can still sling it. And I think they're going to wear the quick game out to keep him healthy. I think, you can get the ball in the perimeter. Breece Hall out of the backfield, great. Garrett Wilson, true number one. Mike Williams, we talked about earlier. He's what you want in a two. If he's healthy, that guy's a big body. He's differentiating. And we haven't seen the Rodgers to Conklin connection, which I think could be a lot of fun. Guys, what's it like down in that low rent district at Studio J? I'm here at the NFL Films studio. This is the house that Steve Sable built. You can see behind my head is the shield. And I'm wearing a sport coat. This is the sport coat I'll be wearing on the first Inside the NFL show. It's the type of scoopage you can't get anywhere else. Went with a T-shirt under the sport coat. Macon, what do you think?
Oh, not a fan.
Really? Fuck you very much.
Well, I love the jacket.
Yeah.
And I guess I like you're taking a chance. In general, I'm not a fan of that look.
Well, they're trying to do a dress down version of last year's show. So Ryan Clark's got to ditch the two-tone suits. He went monochromatic today. He looked like a macchiato. It was like isn't that a coffee? Like his whole suit, it just looked like a latte. Chad Johnson was in some sort of an athleisure wear thing, and Coach Belichick was like me, just professional, total white collar get up.
But
and it was a lot of fun.
Actually, have a collar on? Was he wearing a collar?
Yeah, he had a collar. Button down. It was great, man. It was a lot of fun. Me and Nolan are up here. Nolan is kind of shadowing me up here and helping out where he can. It's like a little city up here, man. There's a bunch of football guys just walking around. And I love it. Brian Baldinger's office is somewhere down the hall. It's taking me everything in my power not to just not do this and go fuck with him for a little bit. Greg Cosell pops downstairs. It's awesome, man. Inside the NFL on the CW every Friday night. Check us out.
How did you do? How was your analysis?
I don't know, Nolan. You tell me. He's going to say you sucked. No, it was good. It's fun working with Bill. It really is. I think Bill's just Bill in 2X. You know what I mean? Now, like where he's saying the same things. He's more insightful because he's able to tell you more. He's not going to throw his own team or other teams under the bus. That's not what he's being asked to do at the podium. He really is. I'm glued to Bill while he's talking. We do this like film breakdown segment where he kind of stands up at the front of the room and breaks down film just like he would in a meeting room, and Chad and I at least can attest it's the same thing. I mean, like you're getting the best of the best analysis every week. And we are I'm learning a lot. And the great thing about being on a show with Bill is like half my trepidation sometimes is like, hey, maybe all four of us are missing something, right? Like maybe we're making a shitty point. We don't know it. That never happens here. And I never have to be the one to go out on a limb and say something I'm not sure of, because I can just be like, Coach, what do you think? And it's been great. Like I'm glued to the guy in production meetings. I've never gotten to sit next to Bill. Like we sat next to each other in the cafeteria sometimes, or you get to know Bill as a coach, and I loved him. But like I'm sitting in a meeting next to the GOAT, and I'm taking notes, and I'm turning to him. What do you think about this? He's like, what do you think about this? And he's fucking funny. Nolan can attest to this. This guy is hilarious. And so I think it's going to be a great show. We're having a lot of fun with it. That's coming up on Friday, so check us out. He's up on the Telestrator. He's got like a John Madden marker and the whole thing. So it's been great. He spent half the week complaining about how nobody plays in preseason. Like Bill is Bill, and you're going to get plenty of Bill every week on the CW Friday night. Guys, I kind of want to do a thing every week, and I don't want anybody to steal this idea, but knowing how this works, somebody will. I'd like to introduce Bill to a different meme every week. I don't even know if he knows what a meme is, like a different football meme, including like the meme of him walking out. When he walked on set today, he looked just like when he was walking out of the fucking tunnel in Detroit. Like same walk. It was crazy, man. And then we're talking about Aguilar and some cut up, and I wanted to show him the guy outside the burning building talking about Aguilar. Like I'm sure he's seen none of this shit. I think it'd be a lot of fun to get Bill all the way into internet culture.
That's a
And
good idea.
I could be his guy every week.
You can be a producer. Are you in production meetings? Does Bill have a posse? Does he have a Nolan?
Bill's got kind of a Nolan. He does. Like the guy with him, right?
Oh, yeah.
The guy
Ernie?
with him.
Ernie hangs out with him.
I wish Ernie was here, but he's got a little posse. I mean, like everybody on the show has a little posse.
Okay.
Lord knows Ryan's got 5 cameramen and, like an autobiographer following him everywhere. He's like Tony Robbins.
That'd be a mirror.
Yeah. So anyways, couple things that popped up today. Obviously, CD Lamb got paid. He got paid right after we released that podcast the other day. I just think it's interesting. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Guy's one of the best 5, wide receivers in football. I would venture to guess he's going to be one of the last remaining 2024 Cowboys at some point. I mean, that's not a hot take, but you just think about like him getting to the point where he signs this deal. He's going to be a Cowboy. But I think there's going to be a lot of turnover in the next couple of years. And he's going to be one of those guys that you look up and he's going to be like one of the last guys that's there who enjoyed some of that success. I think there's going to be a rebuild before there's a Super Bowl in Dallas. Now, we haven't gotten to the NFC East. That's going to be next week. We're going to finish this week with the AFC East and the AFC North. One more thing I think is important, and this has nothing to do with the AFC West, what we're going to talk about today. We hit that the other day, but Samaje Perine, who's one of our favorites, just a do-it-all kind of guy, catch the ball to the backfield, good blocker, like valuable guy to have on your team. Kansas City Chiefs just picked him up. We wondered, what's McKinnon doing? What's up with the depth situation there? That's a nice little pickup.
That news confirms that in week the last Broncos-Chiefs game, Samaje Perine will score a walk-off touchdown to keep the Broncos under their win total.
Dude, if that happens, there's going to be a lot of crying in Studio J.
Yep.
That will be a bummer. There won't be tears of joy. Listen, guys, I am on the road. I'm up in Philly right now doing Inside the NFL, as I said, and I got to hurry up and get to an airplane that's going to take me to St. Louis. I'm going there tomorrow for a Chris Long Foundation event. We are launching Ed Zone in St. Louis, talking about one of our educational equity initiatives. But the real fun, besides hopefully raising a bunch of money, is I get to try to throw out that first pitch again. So tomorrow morning, I don't know what network this is going to be on. They don't carry first pitches, but scour the internet and make sure I did a good job, guys, because I am kind of nervous about it. They play the Padres.
The first pitch is what night of the week?
I don't follow.
What night are you throwing it? Is it Wednesday night? Is it Thursday night?
They play games in the daytime as well, so I'm going to be doing. It's a day game. They didn't want me under the lights.
What day of the week?
Tomorrow.
Thursday. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you get to have a throwing session before the game?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably warm up in the bullpen. We've talked about this. I'm gonna warm the arm up, but I'm not gonna talk to anybody. I'm not gonna take any advice. That's what got me into trouble last time when the catcher told me don't skip it, and I ended up sailing it. So
from the rubber or in front of the mound?
I'm gonna go from the rubber.
Okay.
Yeah. So wind up, no wind up, make.
I guess I'm a no wind up.
I'll probably go no wind up this time. Last time I went wind up. I always like pitching out of the stretch better. That's why I always put the first runner on.
Yeah.
Even in softball.
Hit him.
All right. So let's talk about it. Make, you want to start with, we've got the AFC North and the AFC East today. What's your favorite division? Where do you want to start? You pick the team. So when people complain about the order of the teams, they can send you death threats.
I want to start in the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens. Chris, the odds-on favorite to win the North at plus 135. Their win total is 10.5. Key additions include Derrick Henry and perhaps the best defensive player in the league, Chris. His name's Nate Wiggins.
Yeah, Nate Wiggins is going to be asked to play early, I think we figured out. So
I like this Nate Wiggins.
Listen, we are talking about a team that is the odds-on favorite, if you ask Las Vegas, to win this division. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. We'll talk about that next week when we pick divisions, but I just think they've got a lot of pieces to replace. And I'm not saying they're not going to be dangerous, the whole thing, But when you think about the strength of their team last year, it was the defense. And you came into that season and you wonder where they get pass rush. They ended up getting a career year out of Clowney, who, went on his Clowney World Tour, got another bag. He's on another team now. So you lose Clowney up front. Guys like Owe, Ajabo have to step up. That's going to be a key deal. Like, who's going to be the guy that wins some rushes? Because McDonald was great at knowing when to bring pressure. And like his predecessor was just all balls out, dude. It was blitz, blitz, blitz. McDonald did a good job of mixing it up, but the guys he's going to be replacing, we talk about Clowney in the pass rush. He's going to be replacing Patrick Queen. Trenton Simpson is going to have a lot of pressure on him to play meaningful snaps at backer. Geno Stone, who headed to a division rival in Cincinnati, they got to replace him. That's like 800 snaps apiece. It's just a lot of snaps. And it's one guy at each level of defense who's a key piece at each level of defense. If you were to ask me who the biggest loss is, I think it's Clowney. I really do. Because Van Noy had a really good year, kind of came out of nowhere. Owe, we've been waiting for that light to turn on. Ajabo's got to do something. I worry about the defense a little bit. And, with Millette on IR to start the season, you mentioned Wiggins. He's going to have to play meaningful snaps. You're probably going to have to put Stevens in the slot, which, I don't think is ideal. Ideally, they'd want Humphrey and Stevens outside, and they'd want Millette in the slot. So, they're going to be shuffling some pieces. You got a 32-year-old coordinator. Okay, I'm not saying this guy's not going to be great. I'm not trying to be ageist, whatever it is. But this guy's going to open the season staring across the sideline at Andy Reid, and they're not going to be better on paper. So I do have some concerns about the defense, relative concerns, and the offense too, guys. I feel like we had 1 year where we said, you gave him Odell. He's got enough weapons. Let's see what happens. I'm not saying they were quite Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech before that but it was Greg Roman, and we poked holes in that. And then last year they fall short, and we'll talk about that in a second, but this year, it's a whole new game. I mean, you look at the receivers outside, they get Flowers, Bateman, and Aguilar. The depth is Hardy and Walker, a fourth-round pick. They're an injury away from not having anybody throw the ball to. I mean, you've got tight ends, and I'll make the same argument for the Bills in a little bit of why. Tight ends can carry you and that sort of thing. I would see them as a 12 personnel team. Isaiah likely says he needs to work on his blocking. That's one of the main points of emphasis for him this offseason. You would think that they'd want to still run the ball. Can they get in 12 and run the ball? Can they overcome the fact that Keaton Mitchell gets hurt, and now you've got Derrick Henry coming in who had a little bit lighter load last year. I think that matters. He wasn't in the playoffs. He had 350 carries a year before. He had 280 last year. So I think you're getting a fresher Derrick Henry. I thought the snaps I saw him last year with the ball, and there were plenty, he looked really good. I have not seen a sign of him slowing down. And maybe this is the year, and the Ravens are just that unlucky team that take a stab at this guy, and he's not the guy he once was. But I don't anticipate that. What I worry about is having to save him up a little bit. And the other guy you got in the backfield is Justice Hill. Now, I don't want to disrespect any of their other depth pieces, but you talk about a guy like Mitchell being out, that stuff matters. I mean, their whole backfield's in fucking L.A. with Jim Harbaugh. So, I kind of wonder how they're going to play that. And their offensive line coach passed away. This is bigger than football, obviously, man. It's very sad. And he's a respected guy. I don't have to know much about the guy to know that when an offensive line, of all the position groups, if a coach is going to walk off the job or, God forbid, pass away, and again, bigger than football, but this is a thing that matters, and this is an offensive line room that's going to be starting some new guys, man. You got Linderbaum, who's a good player. You've got the huge cat. Filet from Minnesota is just a big body. They got 3 new guys who are going to play. Moses and Simpson are gone, both of them up with the Jets. And you lose your offensive line coach. I kind of wonder what that's going to look like. I'm not saying they're not going to be a good team, But what I am saying is Lamar's got his work cut out for him. And this is the offseason that we have talked the most out loud about him needing to do more, coming off that playoff game. And for the coordinator, Todd Monken, I thought I'm not saying laid an egg. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it was his first big game. And you could tell, we went through and looked at their third downs this week in that game. Not very good on third down, not going to it's interesting hearing Bill talk about it. It's about the players, not the plays when you're down the stretch. And you got key, you're looking at this Chiefs game, the AFC Championship, and you're looking at it saying, we got 60 plays left in our season. There's only so many. Who do you want getting the ball? And when you get in the second half, it's 30 left, possibly. So on third down and 6 or third and 7, maybe there's a better idea than going to Aguilar on a crosser. And I think for an OC who hadn't been in a spot like this, the fact they didn't run the ball, they came out of the half, got stuffed, got scared away from it. Like, you want to do a layup line thing today, we're not going to do it because I don't want to hear 8 Kenny Chesney songs.
Okay.
But dance with the one who got you there. Run the fucking football. And Lamar, who I don't blame him, he hears the noise about people moving the goalpost. Buddy can't do this. Buddy can't do that. He gets in that playoff game. Use your legs, man. Fuck the talk show people like myself. Fuck the take artists. Tuck it and run when you get man coverage and you see an opening and that sort of thing. And I thought a couple things. They didn't run the ball in that game. They looked confused late and downs. Spags ate their lunch late and downs as the play went on. It's like a lot of times the Ravens can make magic happen late in the down. They couldn't do that against Kansas City. So I just think last year was the year. I'm not saying they can't do it this year, but on paper they are not as good a team. And I think Lamar's great. I'm rooting for him, but they do have their work cut out for him when you lay all these factors out. And they were bottom of the league in outside zone usage last year to go back to the run game. That doesn't put a lot of pressure on the tight end. So I would commit to running the ball because I don't think you have a lot of other choices, man. Like, Flowers can only be so good. And Bateman's a guy they've been waiting to replace or fix the problem. And, Ravens fans are like, hey, we didn't really do anything at wide receiver. So it's a funny situation. Should they be favorites? I'm not asking you to give away your division winner, but do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I think Zay in year 2 might be Lamar's best weapon thus far in his career. I really like how they were using him toward the end of the year. He had that unfortunate fumble against Kansas City in the playoff game, but he also went like 6 for 115 in that game. I really like the safeties, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Matabike is still there. You mentioned Roquan Smith. I do wonder about Zach Orr. Mike McDonald also took several of those defensive coaches. And maybe it's a case of you don't know what you don't know, and it can be beneficial for Zach, for guys to hear a different voice. But in Baltimore, you've won 10 or more games, 5 out of the last 6 years, and that's because you've had a lot of continuity and you have less of it this year. So, no, I do hear what you're saying.
Well, it sucks for them because a lot of teams have trouble retaining offensive coordinators. And here's a team that's been trying to, realize their potential defensively. And they did it last year in a big way. And all of a sudden the guy's up and gone. And, he's a defensive head coach. It's like hire an older coach or something. That's the key. If you can get an older DC, I'm kind of being funny here, but I'm not. Spags, Anarumo, guys might not want to be head coaches. Guys might not be looked at for head coaching jobs. And McDonald he was a great candidate for Seattle, and they plucked him. And now you've got a 32-year-old.
Did you ever have a coach younger than you?
Yeah, I had coaches who were younger than me, but they were mostly assistants. I don't think I ever had a coach of consequence that would have been telling me what to do who was older than me, but I could be forgetting somebody.
Okay.
Or younger than me, rather. Who do you want to go next in the AFC North?
Cincy, and I presume the Bengals might be your odds-on favorite to win the division, which perhaps means you do not have concerns about Joe Burrow and his wrist.
Well, you just have to put it out of your head and say, listen, I'm not in the training room. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what it's going to – and he has his injury history, but The question I have here is, who's the best quarterback in the division when he's healthy? It's Joe Burrow to me. Not by a lot. The way I rank quarterbacks in the NFL, and I saw this poll that came out today, people talking about Josh Allen's one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the league. I'm like, all right, well, what are you watching? Because I think he's 2. I think Burrow, if he's healthy, might be 2. But Burrow, when he is healthy, in my opinion, has the best track record in this division. You know, you got to look at postseason, and you have to look at the weapons also. Like, who has the best weapons in the division? I think the Browns have a pretty good group of skill guys, right? And they got a little bit better. But we're talking about the Bengals having not only a bona fide number one who was 13 minutes late to practice and street clothes today, so we'll see what happens with Jamar Chase, but also T. Higgins. I don't think you're going to miss Tyler Boyd as much as people think. Tom Brady always got the ball to slot guys, like these little overachieving slot guys. We know the guys, okay? Before Wes Welker was Wes Welker, before Julian Edelman was Julian Edelman, they were just slot guys that people were like, who's this little white guy? And, you got Irwin, you have Yoshivas, who came on late last year and was really good on special teams, got some snaps, offensively. There's nobody better at picking apart a defense underneath and over the middle of the field than Joe Burrow, short of the best in the game, and Patrick Mahomes. But I look at Joe Burrow and I say, with these weapons, if he's upright, and that's a big if, right? They'll be able to be competitive. He's healthy. They add Gesicki. I love Gesicki, and I've been waiting for somebody to make the most out of him. The running back room's not great, right? And then, you compare that to Baltimore, and I've been down on Dallas's offense, right? How much different is Dallas's offense than Baltimore's offense in overall skill level? Who's got the better skill guys? Because they don't have a CeeDee Lamb in Baltimore. Baltimore might have more depth. They have better tight ends. But I don't look at the running back room in Dallas coming away very impressed. The running back room in Baltimore is pretty good. But when you talk about being a passer and looking at the weapons, I'm not overwhelmed by Baltimore's weapons. And I look at Cincinnati and I say, this is a good receiving core. And they have a nice variation of skill sets and bodies and the whole thing. And I'm really interested to see what happens with Gesicki, how you use him, how you split him out, how teams count him. They're going to count him as a wide receiver mostly, right? Because he's not putting a hat in hands on anybody. But fun group. And I think, honestly, last year when we saw Joe Burrow come in, he wasn't ready. We know that. I mean, they looked terrible. He didn't look right. Fast forward to week 8 and 9, in that time period, me and Nolan were talking about it. He was playing some of the best ball in the league. That San Francisco game on the road was incredible. It looked like vintage Joe Burrow. And, I think we're going to get that guy. I really do. The big thing that you can't have with him is you can't have tackles stepping on his feet. You can't have him hitting his hand on, Orlando Brown's helmet. You can't have guys getting bull rushed, especially with the size of those tackles. Hey, Mims looked really good. He's dinged. Where do they reinsert him in the lineup? I don't know. But they got the law firm out there, Brown and Brown, or the car dealership, as people in Charlottesville, Virginia know it. Brown, Brown, Brown. You'll love the service. Brown, Brown, Mims. You're not going to love the service. They're just going to fuck you up. They're big physical guys, right? And in pass protection, they just need to get in the way and make people run the hump. And so, my big question is, with Karras, Kappa, and Volson inside, that's not a strength. You look around the division, you would love to be able to pound the rock, right? You would love to be able to pound the rock inside on Pittsburgh, who doesn't have a lot of beef in there. Cam Hayward's a big dog, but they got some Benton, Ogunjobi. They're not huge guys. You could run the ball into the teeth of the Browns defense better than I try the edges. You don't want to deal with Myles Garrett and Big Z. It's all big bodies in Baltimore. So I worry about, the interior of that offensive line a little bit. Overall, though, they can get the ball out quick. When they're good, that's what they do. They spread you out, and they got the slot guys to do it. I'm excited to see this offense this year. Last year, we just never got a full look at it. And I think there will be some sort of adjustment, an unforeseen adjustment to losing Callahan to Tennessee. Now, he's not a play caller, But when these guys leave, they often lord over some corner of the offense that's not apparent to us until the guy goes, right? Like, hey, Frank Reich wasn't calling the offense in Philly, right? But Frank had a lot of responsibilities that kind of showed up when he left, right? And so I'll be curious there. The defense, I got to be honest, it looks better than I thought it was going to look. I worried about the safety position, right? Coming to this offseason, last year they had to replace two of the best. Like Von Bell, really smart, veteran guy, complete player. Jesse Bates took his talents to Atlanta, was kicking ass down there, taking names, picking people off all year. And Lou Anarumo, who's really crafty and whose defense demands good safety play, late rotations, doing things on the move. Like, they're going to play two different coverages in two halves of the field. It's not like it's going to be cover 6. They're really doing things post-snap to confuse people. And you have to have good communication. I think about the safety as one of the quarterbacks of the defense. And so bringing in, a guy like Geno Stone, who just so happens to come from, another building that you need to know as much as you can about. Like, usually that's not an opportunity you get with a premier player. Usually they're bringing in a guy who spent a weekend somewhere ahead of a game as a P squad guy and saying, hey, tell me what you know, and then we cut him, right? But you bring in Geno Stone, and he knows the division. He's going to pair with Jordan Battle, who's a third rounder, right? And then you have Von Bell if things don't work out, right? Who's a veteran, and he's going to help whether he's getting a lot of snaps or not. Their corners, Cam Taylor-Britt, Dax Hill, Hilton at nickel, like, good group. DJ Turner, they want him to take a leap, but they like him. He's a real fast guy. The issue might be up front and inside. The issue might be the edge depth, right? Like, Murphy's on IR. He wasn't ready last year. They put him in, I think, the Houston game, and he had trouble in the run game, gapping out and fitting up. You got to be able to depend on a third end. It's one of the most important positions, man. I'm not just saying that because when I was old, I was a third end, but you need that guy that can come on the field on first and second down, be in the right spot, and then add some pass rush when guys get tired, or be on the nickel look. And if you go NASCAR, you want, a couple smaller bodies. You might take BJ Hill and some of these guys off the field. Like, they don't really have – Sheldon Rankins is a nice addition. He'll stay on the field on third down. But it'd be nice to have a package where you can get some big fast guys, or, some smaller fast guys in there. Osai, they've been waiting to come on. And, it's kind of been downhill for him since he fucked that what was it, against Kansas City? Jermaine Pratt famously was like, you fucked up my last game here. And then 3 years later, Jermaine Pratt's still in the building. By the way, I like that linebacker core. So really my concerns are up the middle in the run game. BJ Hill's a big guy and everything, but like without DJ Reader, there's a difference there. And it's depth. If Hendrickson and Hubbard, who are two of my favorites, are dinged, Hubbard got dinged late last year. Hendrickson's been sidelined before. Like, who's going to step up? And I figure Anarumo can get creative and maybe bring a little more pressure. So I look at this group, and you've got a head coach who's really proven himself. I think people used to make fun of the guy. He's a heck of a head coach. I mean, he's got them right where they need to be. And the DC, who, again, if he weren't 65 years old or whatever he is, and I don't want to fuck that up, he might be 58. I don't know. He'd be a head coach somewhere else.
58. Nice.
58 years old. Yeah, I just wanted to be fair to my paisan. But Anarumo, he's a hell of a coach, and I think he's going to figure out a way to make this work, and they'll look better than they did last year. So, again, you just looked at Baltimore, you looked at Cincinnati. Who got better definitively on a side of the ball? I mean, like, I don't think Baltimore got better on either side of the ball. You could argue that the Bengals got better in some spots. We'll see.
Yeah, quickly on the Zach Moss piece, he did go for 122 at Baltimore as a member of the Colts last year, went for 165 against Tennessee. So he's capable. On paper, you think it's a downgrade from Joe Mixon, but we'll see. I don't have my matrix in front of me, but listen to the names of these teams. 4 of the first 6: New England, Washington, Carolina, New York Giants.
Holy shit.
That's 4 of the first 6 for Cincinnati. So,
and guess what the Bengals never do?
Get off to a fast start.
It's time to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you should be 4-0.
Yep. That's 4 of the first 6. So 2 others mixed in there, which you're the Bengals. You have Joe Burrow. They'll be winnable. The other 2 are at Kansas City, home Baltimore. So you figure it is 4-2 or 5-1 for Cincy.
And if
All
you
right.
look at Baltimore's schedule to start the season, and I don't know anything, but they have the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Bills, and the Bengals. It's going to be imperative that you start fast. I mean, like, if the Ravens wind up beating you and you drop a game to the Bills, like, what are we doing here? Who do you like, Make? Who's next?
Okay, Cleveland Browns plus 500 to win the AFC North. The quarterback room currently, Chris, is Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, DTR, and there is talk of shipping out Jameis.
I don't think it's true from what I hear. Like, from what I hear, if you're to believe that, and that's the thing with trades, like, there are reports, there's, I want to push back on that report. Like, you got to be careful not biting the cheese here, but I hear that they're not shipping Jameis out. You're in the middle of navigating possibly one of the worst trades in the history of the NFL, and we'll see. I think this year is the year we find out for sure. I lean it probably is, and I look at things like the win total, and it's how could this roster, is this the best roster to ever have a 8-9 game win total? I mean, like,
That's interesting.
the defense is incredible. I mean, the defense is on paper. There's not a lot of holes. The offense, in my opinion, might have got better. Okay, like, you add Jerry Jeudy, Reed's boy.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He hadn't shown it yet. Is that fair? Hasn't
It's
shown
totally fair, but where's he been playing? No offense.
100%. He's been running routes, 5 yards open down the field, and Russ has either been sacked or thrown it 15 yards past him.
Yeah, so I'm not saying he's getting a much better quarterback here, but this offense, you got a real big boy play caller. Not that Sean Payton wasn't, okay, so maybe I'm talking myself out of it now. But a fresh start can go a long way for guys. Here's the sobering thing, like Deshaun Watson, you can't get out for another 3 years. Like, you're trapped. If they just did away with the salary cap, that's the only way out of this mess, right? Like, that's the only way out of this mess, and he's also banged up. And I brought this up last year. I'm not saying he's banged up right now, but he was last year. And I think he's perpetually banged up at this point. I can tell you as an athlete, once your legs start going, once things start going, and for me, I'd say it was after 2 years on IR and being older and, like, I was able to overcome some things, but, like, you can feel it when athletically there's no going back. I don't know if we're at that point with Deshaun Watson, but I do know over the first couple of years of his career, we made a big deal about Luck. We made a big deal about RG3 getting pummeled. We made a big deal about Burrow. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am, because I talked about this last year. No one got hit or sacked more than Deshaun Watson in Houston those first couple of years. And I think people kind of forget about that because he's not a stationary target. You don't feel bad for him like Joe Burrow. You're like, oh, Joe can't move. They just fell into his legs and all this shit. Or, RG3's career got ruined, or Andrew Luck retired. But Deshaun Watson, while he's not a character that I have a lot of empathy for, I feel for the football player because his skill set has been greatly diminished by the mileage, and it happened quick. They only kept 2 tight ends. That tells me, keeping 5, 6 wide receivers, they're going to spread things out. Last year when he left at times with the injury, it was interesting to see, like, what Stefanski did, because Stefanski ideally is running a different offense that he's running with Deshaun Watson. Now, ideally, I think Stefanski would like 3 tight ends on the roster. They're going to be, getting on edges. It's going to be play action, the whole deal. But I think he's got to retrofit what he does to, it's his only hope, to what Deshaun likes. And that's going to be spreading them out. And you've got, however it shakes out, solid tackle play. I mean, like, it was a small sample size seeing DeJuan Jones, but they really liked him filling in for Jack Conklin. And Jack Conklin just found out ACL, PCL, MCL last year. So that was a big, big injury that he's coming back from. And Wills just came back. So, at tackle, some question marks with health. But this offensive line is all world. If you look at the guys inside, Teller, Pochich, and Bitonio. Like, these guys are studs inside. You're going to start the season without your stud running back and Chubb. Jerome Ford got a lot of work last year. Dante Foreman's a guy I like. They'll be fine in the run game. They're going to be able to run the ball, ironically. They need the guy who's costing them all this money to magically become a good quarterback again. The defense, if they figure out how to play on the road as well as they play at home, we couldn't figure out what those splits were about last year. You can't boil it just down to pass rush and crowd noise, because we tried to do that and control for certain things, and there was just no real conclusion we came to. And at the end of the year, they finished that way on the road, just getting shredded in man coverage. And that's the problem with Jim Schwartz. He leans on that man coverage so much. He keeps things so simple that when they got you, when there's a great quarterback you're playing and he sees man and he's got enough pieces outside, he's going to exploit leverage. He's going to be able to beat that man coverage. And as good as those corners are, and I like all those guys in the back end, safeties, Delpit, Thornhill, they're studs back there. And you got great rushers. You can't play man coverage all the damn time. That's just me. That's just me. And so when you run into good quarterbacks and you go on the road and the pass rushers aren't going on silent count, and they're not shooting off the ball, like they got to figure out what it is on the road that's holding these guys up. But Newsome had a hamstring surgery. He's your slot guy. He's coming back. He just got back. That's a sigh of relief. JOK got paid. Really like the linebackers. And they have good depth up front too. Bookends, Big Z, Miles, but you've got Okoronkwo and guy inside by the name of Quentin Jefferson, who's played a lot of football. So Garrett, Tomlinson, Shelby, and Big Z, that's a fucking group right there. I don't worry about the defense. I just worry about this offense.
All right, so here are the quarterbacks who started for Cleveland last year. DTR 3 starts, Joe Flacco 5, Jeff Driscoll 1, PJ Walker 3. That's 12 total starts. The team went 11-6. They got pummeled by Houston in the playoffs. But why is that win total 8.5 if you're winning 11 last year with that defense and all these guys at quarterback? Granted, Joe had a great year.
Well, they let Joe Flacco walk. I think like that's my only explanation is like they must know that the word out of Cleveland is Deshaun's the worst kept secret in football. I mean, he just doesn't have it anymore. I could be wrong. I'm not going to say I'd be happy to be wrong. I would say that about somebody else, but like, letting Joe Flacco walk said to me that it's not just his body, it's also his confidence. Because there's no world where I would let the guy that just led you to the playoffs walk, especially because he's going to go do the same thing in Indy. I'm not saying he's going to lead them to the playoffs, but he might get some starts if we know anything about Anthony Richardson. And you let him walk out of the building. And so what happens now? When Deshaun inevitably misses a game, I don't know what they're seeing to put that total where it is, but I would damn near be tempted to take the under. Just because it is so low.
A team with the same win total of 8.5 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Additions include Russell Wilson, Patrick Queen, Justin Fields, Cordero Patterson, Dante Jackson, but plus 700, worst odds in the division for the perpetually 500 or above Pittsburgh Steelers.
And by the way, I want to say this, going back to Cleveland real quick. They got to start fast, okay? Because week 6, they go Birds, Bengals, Ravens, Chargers. Their December is brutal. Kansas City, Cincinnati, Miami, and Baltimore. So get off to a hot start if you can. Now, moving ahead to Pittsburgh, talking about, the similar win total and, Tomlin, who never goes under 500 and all that. Unfortunately, as they brought in a couple, quote-unquote, real quarterbacks, we'll see. There's excitement. We got rid of Matt Canada. You bring in Arthur Smith, who, don't forget, I don't know how many times we got to see this play out, but like just because you couldn't be a head coach doesn't mean you forgot how to call offense. The thing that got you hired, you still know how to do that. And I think Arthur's going to be a really good fit, but their schedule is brutal, like brutal. And as you look at their roster, as much excitement as like, hey, Russ or Fields, you got a 50-50 shot of both of them being good. That adds up to like, I don't know, make you do the math. What are your chances of having a good quarterback? You're excited, but you look at the offensive line and the injuries are piling up. Sayamalu, who's an important piece, a guy that honestly Philly still misses. If Philly could have a couple back the last couple of years, I bet you they'd probably, I don't know, Nolan, I think they'd probably say Sayamalu and DJ Edwards. So, yeah, like Seumalo starts out hurt. He has a pec that just popped up. You got a rookie center who they like in Frazier. Mason Cole was a problem last year. They got Broderick Jones, who got beat like a drum, unsurprisingly, against one of the best in the league in Daniil Hunter in preseason. You've got Fatanu, who I'm not crazy about at this point. I'm not saying he couldn't be a good player, but you're in for it if he's going to start week one. He's coming off an injury. It's a group that doesn't have a lot of experience together. There's not a lot of continuity. You could have some young guys playing, and there are injuries. So when you think about Justin Fields and you think about Russell Wilson, who would I rather start if it's going to be a shit show back there?
Fields.
To me, it's Fields, because you can do things with the offense that slows rushers down, that stresses the edge of the defense, that just makes people take a beat before they pin the ears back and go. The offensive line is going to be an issue. That's bad news for a guy like Fields, who just came from a place where the offensive line and the offense was a dumpster fire. But at least now you've got Pickens outside. You have Patterson out of the backfield. Saw him take a handoff against the Lions, take it to the house. That's going to be fun. Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson. I'm not saying it's a great group, but it will be a group that they look to add to if they think they have something at some point this year. And they've already looked at adding Ayuk, and you don't even know if you got a quarterback to throw him the ball. They have named Russell Wilson the starter. I wouldn't have done that, but I still think there's a chance that they're probably trying to move Russell at some point this year. That's just me. I think Justin Fields is eventually the quarterback for this team. If he's not, that's probably going to mean Russell Wilson's playing well. So for you Steelers fans, you can hope that you don't see Justin Fields, but I think you do eventually. And again, there are receivers out there. Hunter Renfrow didn't die. He's still out there. Mechie, I'd heard they had tried to trade for Mechie, but the fact that the Houston Texans just dumped Noah Brown, who is on the street, tells me they probably keep Mechie. Allen Robinson's out there. It's just Tim Patrick got picked up by the damn Lions, Reed. So there's just not a lot out on the street at this point in the season. And for Arthur Smith, whoever's the quarterback, it's going to be better than the Ritter-Mariota saga that he just left. Because Ritter, for everything we talked about with Ritter, this isn't me taking a victory lap. This is just me raising my hand. He wasn't the guy in Atlanta. It was pretty clear. And the Cardinals didn't think he was good enough, and they cut him. So, Arthur Smith's had to deal with some shit. What excites me about this team, if they're all healthy and the offensive line comes along, is they can be physical. I love their backs. I love Jaylen Warren.
Do you really? You love Najee Harris?
I really like Najee. I've been up and down on him, but I've come back around on him. I thought late last year the whole group came on and they took some ownership in what they like to run in the scheme, and they talked more about outside zone and that sort of thing. You got a big fucking tight end in Darnell Washington. I'd like to see him learn how to put hands on people and be a real factor in the run game. At least you can get on the edges. I think you can in the run game, and I think you can get creative with a new coordinator. The defense is the defense, man. They're going to be good. We don't need to talk all day about defense. The only worry I have is Beanie Bishop is playing slot. He's an undrafted free agent. And you're going to see guys like Flowers or Jamar Chase at times in the slot in this division. Cam Sutton's got an 8-game suspension, should be 80 probably, right? Remember when we all acted like we cared about domestic violence, and now it's oh, what did Cam Sutton do? It is a good group. You got Joey Porter Jr., you have Dante Jackson, who's a nice player, came over in the Deontay Johnson trade, which I didn't mention. That's kind of addition by subtraction. If you ever bet a Steelers win total or bet a Steelers game, or you're a Steelers fan, you probably, when he went to Carolina, were all right, cool. Because they just couldn't get on the same page. And so the front's going to have to carry this group. It'll be interesting to see what Patrick Queen looks like next to a Landon Roberts to start the season with Holcomb on IR. He's injured, actually. I don't want to say IR. Linebacker was a problem last year. It showed up immediately. If you remember that San Francisco game to start the season, you were yeah, this is going to be an issue. See if Patrick Queen can put that fire out.
And the Allen Robinson is no longer an option for the Steelers. He just got signed to the Lions practice squad. The Lions have a hell of a practice squad wide receiver wise. They have Donovan Peoples-Jones and Tim Patrick in addition to Allen Robinson.
Dude, they have a couple years ago, that's a really exciting young wide receiver core or something.
Yeah, maybe or something.
So yeah, I mean, listen. Do I want to see the Steelers? Fuck, I'm not going to bet the win total this year. Usually, I like to. That's one of those teams I've gotten interested in eyeballing that thing, and it's juicy when they hang it at 8.5 to say, oh yeah, when do they not win 8 games or 9 games? Especially, we got an extra game now. What's Tomlin going to fuck around win 11? It might be his most exciting group in a couple of years, but because of the schedule, I just don't know.
Yeah, but the schedule early, let me push back just a second. Falcons,
Do it.
Broncos, Chargers, Colts, Cowboys, then Raiders, Jets, Giants. Like they're going to be hanging around there 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know.
When did they start struggling last year?
Yeah, they have a week 9 bye this year, and after that, it gets a little tougher. That's when they face all the divisional opponents.
You better be 5-3.
That's crazy. All the divisional games are week 11 and beyond. 2 against Baltimore, 2 against Cincy, 2 against Cleveland.
And so maybe if you're Pittsburgh, you come into the season and say, hey, we're going to figure out what we got the first half of the season. We're going to try to start hot, but we're going to try to stay healthy. We're going to try to pace ourselves, take care of the guys, and make that late push because there's no way around having to win those games in December. You know, like if you want to go to the playoffs, you got to win division games. And like the AFC, even with another wild card spot, it's a tough fucking conference to be like, yeah, we'll get in at 9-8. Like, so I think you either got to start really fast or you got to be playing your best ball in December and surge late.
And you want to talk layup line, Chris. I think it's Down the Road by Kenny Chesney for Pittsburgh because it's not this year. It's When the Sun Goes Down by Kenny Chesney for Cincy because how about all those primetime games? It's Anything But Mine by Kenny Chesney for Cleveland because Cleveland is literally in the league. And I guess with that, we'll go to the AFC East. The AFC East, one of the most exciting divisions in football this year. The New York Jets are favored to win this puppy just by a bit. BetMGM right now has them at plus 160 to win the AFC East. Bills are at plus 180. The Jets.
That's going to be I Fall to Pieces by Patsy Cline because this fucking team can't stay healthy. Yeah. They have a banner offseason, Macon. They basically went to the trauma ward at a hospital, and they were like, give me Tyron Smith, give me, Mike Williams, give me the quarterback who blew his Achilles out the first week last year. This Travis. Team, if they're healthy, is Jordan Travis on this team?
Yeah.
No fucking way. I love Jordan Travis. I take it all back. They're going to be fine. I do think they're going to be fine because I picked them to be in the Super Bowl last year before the season. Okay, like this is me owning something, but like you don't know, you can't say for sure that I'm wrong because I think Aaron Rodgers can still sling it. And I think they're going to wear the quick game out to keep him healthy. I think, you can get the ball in the perimeter. Breece Hall out of the backfield, great. Garrett Wilson, true number one. Mike Williams, we talked about earlier. He's what you want in the two. If he's healthy, that guy's a big body. He's differentiating. And we haven't seen the Rodgers to Conklin connection, which I think could be a lot of fun. So, my biggest question is probably health, like in at tackle, this Olu Fashanu guy, if Smith goes down or Moses goes down and he wants to play right now, he looked good. Elijah Vera Tucker wants to have like a big bounce back year, right? Simpson is a new guy, probably not great in pass pro. Tippmann at center, like the strength of their offensive line, I can't say for sure what it is right now, right?
Joe Tippmann, great big, like feathery mullet thing going.
Got a great mullet.
Yeah, Wisconsin. Oh. Yeah.
So, this could be a team that might look to make a move, halfway through the season. If you're Joe Douglas and you look up and you're 6-2, send the house to Vegas, and grab you Devontae Adams. Get the reunion going. Because you can save your job. I'm not saying their jobs are on the line. Saleh and Joe, like guys that I really like. Joe's one of my dudes. But he would probably tell you if they don't win many games this year, they're going to be looking to make changes. And so I would sell out. They're already burning the ships, like gambling on a lot of these injured kind of players. If they can stay healthy on that MetLife turf, like, boy, does that not sound likely?
The playing surface, it's bad. It's
the
treacherous.
the World Cup guys were like, "What is this?" Let's talk about the defense, okay?
My favorite player in football, his name's Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams.
Bless me.
Bless me. Thank you.
Well, here's what they didn't do. They didn't bless him with much help because the guy they brought in Reddick, hasn't played a single snap. I've seen more pictures of him in a gi than I've seen in a New York Jets uniform. It's getting to be scary hours with this holdout. McDonald's got to come on, and I really like Will McDonald. Liked him last year. We just looked at some tape of him in the preseason, sunk a couple spin moves, looking like Brian Burns to me. Not saying he's going to be Brian Burns, but he looks like him. The way he's built, the shiftiness, the length, like the spin move, he's going to get a lot of mileage out of this thing. He's just, I'm almost more excited to see him. If Reddick doesn't want to be there, hey, hungry dogs run faster, right? Or whatever they say. Hungry dogs eat. Like it's time to eat, Will McDonald. Like if Reddick doesn't want his food, take his food. And, another thing is they lose John Franklin Meyer. That's a problem. Jermaine Johnson's really their only guy back outside of Quinnen Williams, who you're like, yeah, this guy was a big part of our defense last year up front. Now, Clemens is still there. I really like him, Solly Thomas. But, there are some depth issues there, and you thought that group on paper might look a lot better than it does currently. It just puts more pressure on Will McDonald to be good. And I didn't even mention Bryce Huff, who left. Now, the Jets do have some rookie number 91, Chris Long, Cassius Marsh descendant looking motherfucker that supposedly has had a great preseason. I don't have much on that cat, but he really does.
Braden McGregor.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for that guy, huh?
6'6", 267, Michigan Wolverine.
Yeah, he's a little bigger than your boy, but he's wearing that 91. He's got the tats and the whole thing. So, anyways, we got the defense here. We're talking about the back end.
Sauce.
Tony Adams and Clark in the middle, great corners, right? Like Sauce gets a lot of credit as he should, but the other guy's pretty damn good too. But like honestly, the backers are good. I love Ulbrich, love the front if they can put it together. They gave up 20.9 points a game last year with those quarterbacks playing quarterback. I don't think people understand this. If your offense ain't very good, it's going to be very hard to maximize your potential as a defense. And these guys playing without pressure is going to be a lot of fun. I really do. So I would also keep Leonard Taylor III has made some noise in preseason. If you want to, you look for a depth guy inside. Baldy was just talking about him. This is a team that can go far. I really believe that. Part of it is because they got a quarterback. There's a small chance he looks washed, but there's also a pretty good chance it still looks like Uncle Rico, and he can throw the ball over the mountains. So I can't wait to see this Jets offense. Hopefully you see it intact for 18 weeks, 17 weeks.
The Jets are going to go far in an airplane across the country to play out San Francisco week 1. Monday Night Football. You want to guess that line, big boy?
Going to San Francisco. San Francisco by 3.5.
You
4.
got it. You got it. 3.5.
Maybe I already looked at the lines. Probably not, though. I kind of want to take the over in Kansas City, Baltimore. I bet that number's like 47.
46.5.
It's 46.5.
Bro, I'm on it.
6.5.
All right, give me another line while we're here.
Packers, Eagles in Brazil.
Oh, Packers, Eagles.
Packers, Eagles?
Eagles by 2.5.
It's 3.
Okay.
All right.
Total's going to be hovering around 46.
Higher, 48.5.
Okay.
All right. Start thinking about Arizona at Buffalo, because Buffalo is where we're going. Buffalo plus 180 to win the division. Their win total is 9.5, led by Josh Allen. Key additions include Lyle Collins, Keon Coleman, Matt Collins, Gabe Stevenson, Kareem Jack. All right, not a lot of key additions. Some additions.
Okay.
I don't know if the key.
Take it easy on my guy Lyle Collins, who I got to reunite with when we went up to Buffalo.
Yeah.
They cut him? Fuck.
Holy smokes. Breaking
Damn,
news
dude.
here on the
Nolan,
pod.
you're like the Grim Reaper of the pod, bro. Like, take it easy. Let me down easy. Lyle Collins came up and was like, hey, man, sorry about, when we played. We were Me and Collins used to go at it, and he's the nicest fucking guy. Huge smile. The guy was a killer on the field, man. Like, he used to really get after people, and I thought he might stick there as like a depth piece because of the physicality that he would give them. But your tackles, Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, you know what you're getting there. Listen, you want to know about the line? I think it's probably like 6.5.
6. You
Okay. We're going to go to the Buffalo Bills here. I talked about the tackles, the offensive line. I think the biggest question, people freak out about the wide receivers. The only little bit of freak out I have is like, what's it look like with Connor McGovern at center? Like, we're going to find out how much Josh is responsible for with Mitch Morse before playing center, who's now down in Jacksonville, who, by the way, is going to help Trevor Lawrence. So I kind of wonder what that's going to look like. When Kelsey left the Eagles, I started to realize how much he was doing up front there. We had Nick Foles on last week. He was like, yeah, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So what's it going to be like when Josh is out there and he's got to ID things and call out protections and change things? And, Mitch Morse is a really good player and a guy that, if you ask Josh, he talked about the gravity of losing him. Don't worry about – fuck the receivers, man. They make it too simple. Okay, Diggs barely caught the ball at the end of last year, all right? He dropped the ball in the AFC Championship. That's not to say I wouldn't love to have Diggs on my team, but it wasn't working there. And when they went Joe Brady, the offense ran through the tight ends and threw the running back out of the backfield. When you go up there and you hear about Khalil Shakir, who is one of my favorite players in Madden, okay, you can get anybody on a zig route, although they took the zig route, hot route out of the game, which sucks. At least now you can run a corner. But this guy, he's a matchup nightmare in short, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, little bunches and stacks. This guy can get out. Keon Coleman, if Keon Coleman plays like a first rounder, he might be one of the most important rookies in the league this year in the way he can swing the power balance. If he's like Rashee Rice was for Patrick Mahomes, and I just mean dependable and ahead of his time, and Josh loves him, comped him to Mike Thomas in build, and just like he said, he's got the most body control of anybody he's played with. And so that's all good stuff. They rave about Dalton Kincaid. Like, I think America is a little bit behind on Dalton Kincaid. I think Dalton Kincaid's kind of a weird name. You're like, where the fuck did this guy come from? He looks like the other tight end. I'm getting him and Dawson Knox mixed up. Nah, this guy's like a real route runner. He's a real weapon out there, and they're excited about him. Everything runs through the tight ends, and they've got a solid group of receivers that honestly, Curtis Samuel's a retread for Joe Brady. I mean, he's worked with him before. He brought him in. That's the devil he knows. Chances are he feels good about him. And I think they're going to be fine. I don't worry about that offense because you got a quarterback like Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes just did it. And no one's saying he's Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes was able to go out there and make it work. That's your fucking job, Josh Allen. You're one of the best in the league for my dollar. And this is what happens when you're a great quarterback. Sometimes the cap gets eaten up and that window, quote unquote, closes. I don't think it's closed on this offense. You can keep that window open. The defense is what worries me a little bit. I'll start with safety, okay? Week 1, it's going to be Rapp and Hamlin, depending on what happens with the injuries. So another guy, not unlike Anarumo, who needs heady safeties, and they've enjoyed that play for a long time, like guys that understand what's happening right up to the ball is snapped. The two shell stuff, rotating into different variations. It's harder to do that with these guys. And when you lose Matt Milano, something you did last year too, and they found a way, these are problems. And, Bernard and Dorian Williams, it's just not going to be the same. They get Daquan Jones back. Love him. Love Ed Oliver. Somebody's got to step up outside, and I don't know if that's Von Miller. Von just needs to be 5'7" sack Von. Veteran rusher Von. He doesn't need to go for 15, but the guy that needs to come along is Rousseau. And Rousseau, I've seen some good things from him, and it might not be fair to ask him to be like a home run hitter, be the one, but he's got to be the one, right? So I just look at pass rush a little bit. I like their secondary outside. Rasul Douglas, who they brought in, is a great scheme fit. Benford, Taron Johnson's one of the best nickels in the league. I like Rapp. I do. But no disrespect to Mar Hamlin. This is not like a statement on, because his name has just become so polarizing for all the wrong reasons, right? People just fucking making it not about football. Damar Hamlin is not a guy I want trotting out there the first week as my starting safety. I do worry a little bit about that. Micah Hyde's still on the street. What's he thinking about? Does he want to come back? Is something wrong there? The safeties worry me.
Have you seen any of Dwayne Carter preseason out of Duke, third rounder?
You like him?
I liked him going into the draft.
No, I can't speak with authority on Dwayne Carter. Hey, Mr. Carter.
I like these versatile Duke Blue Devils. There's an offensive lineman too that can play all three positions.
That Graham Barton's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Is he going to be the first Duke Hall of Famer? You're going to need the Google on that. Next team, who's it going to be?
Wallace Wade. Your Miami Dolphins. Let me, are you prepared to zag and say the Miami Dolphins at plus 225 will win the AFC East?
I'm not. I'm really not. I hate to be like the same guy every year, but like, have I been wrong so far about it?
Not yet.
Okay, and this could be the year. And listen, I just want to say this to open the year. Tua is one of the best processors in the NFL. Quick game, great, man. Like he sees it like that. But as the play extends, we've talked about it plenty. Like, what are they going to do to change what they do? McDaniel, I mean, he's a whiz. He's turned that run game into something special. And maybe that's what they lean on, right, a little bit, especially early in the season because Beckham's going to be out the first 4 games. They're going to trot out Braxton Berrios, Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Mostert and Achane out of the backfield. Speed everywhere, okay? They're scary. If they can get the ball out quick, great. Here's one place that I think can help. Adding Jonnu Smith. They've kind of gone without a tight end for a couple years, and that's going to show up in a lot of areas. It's going to show up in the passing game in the middle of the field, right? But it's also going to show up in the outside zone stuff.
Do you mean they weren't using Gesicki correctly?
No, they didn't really have an inline blocker. They didn't really have like an inline blocker. Smythe is like a big guy and everything, but like, how about a guy who can catch the ball too? Jonnu Smith, when he was in Tennessee, was a problem, and then he just signed the wrong contract. He was up in New England. And none of their tight ends really worked out. Him and Henry went the same year. And, I think Jonnu Smith getting an opportunity down here can be hopefully the thing that turns them around. But I don't know what's going to help Tua late in the down. Ultimately late in the season, late in the down, you got to make plays. And the offensive line for me is, Chris Greer says, hey, we're not worried about it. Fans are a little bit worried about the offensive line. Austin Jackson and Armstead, if they're healthy, I like those tackles. Eichenberg is a little bit of a liability. They grab a center from Tennessee, Brewer. They lose Hunt. Hunt goes to Carolina, making a bunch of money. Robert Jones at left guard. I don't want to complicate this thing. It kind of feels like, hey, we paid Tua. What we saw is good enough to give him the bag. At times it looks spectacular, but at times the bottom falls out. And only McDaniel knows what has to happen for that bottom not to fall out. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have the answer. Keeping him upright would be one thing, right? But at some point, you got to be able to take 3.5 seconds when things break down, extend a play, make a play. Look at the playoffs. Look at the big plays that happen where things break down, and those are the guys that can make magic happen. I'm not saying he's not a heck of a quarterback. I mean, he wouldn't have made that much money if he weren't a heck of a quarterback. He wouldn't be at that point that he's gotten to, or the numbers that he's put up. But that's just not going to be enough. That offense has got to take the next step. And now we have opened the window on this contract, and so if he takes a step backward, the noise is going to be loud. The defense, to me, is what worries me a little bit, right? I love their coverage. Fuller, Ramsey, who's going to travel this year, by the way. And I mean, across field, cross formation, shadow the best guy. And that's in the Anthony Weaver defense, a little bit different than Fangio, who did not get along with his DBs. So you got Poyer, you got Holland, you got Cater Coe, who's been a really quality slot for them. I like their linebackers. Brooks from Seattle, David Long Jr. They have retooled that room over the last 2 years. Weaver's going to be more 1 and 3, right? Like Fangio, shell coverage. I think you see more blitzes. And I think that's a good thing because when you look at this defensive line, another group that if they were all healthy, you'd be excited about them, right? Calais Campbell, Sealer. I love those guys. Jalen Phillips is starting the season questionable, right? He might miss a couple weeks. He's coming off a major injury, and Chubb's coming off a major injury. Okay, Phillips tore his Achilles in week 12. He was activated off PUP, but Chubb's going to be out. So where do these rushes come from? You know, that's a big question for me, especially if a team, they're going to get out and jump people, right? Like that's what they do to bad teams. Well, teams are going to be in the hurry up. Teams are going to be out in 2-minute mode. You know, if you're firing on all cylinders, like you got to be able to rush. And I don't see it right now. Maybe a couple weeks in, they get healthy and they get right. Cause I love Jalen Phillips. And I think Chubb's a heck of a player. Jags, Bills, Hawks, Tennessee, New England. I think that's how they start the season. And then late in the season, look at their second half schedule. Look at the last 8 games.
When it gets cold outside?
When it gets cold outside and when they've typically not played their best ball, okay? At Bills, I'm not going to act like they didn't tear it up going to Buffalo in the snow 2 years ago, okay? Like, it's in there. They can do it, you know? I'm not saying they can't play in the cold. At the Rams, right? Tough matchup there. Raiders, Pats, take a little 2-week vacation. We'll be all on this team to win the Super Bowl again, like we do after the Broncos game and after this and that. But like at Green Bay, Jets at home, at Texans, Niners, and Browns. You're going to Green Bay in December, basically. You're going to Buffalo in November. Listen, call me a hater every year, but I'm not going to change my tune. Until I see it, I don't believe it.
Week 18 is at New York. If both of those teams are 9-7 and you're relatively healthy, you're probably taking the Jets at home in Week 18 in what's going to be more than likely an important game. No Christian Wilkins. I know you're not going to say a bad thing about Calais. He does turn 38 years old on Sunday.
I don't even think that's a bad thing to say because he didn't look like it out there. He really, I mean, he's
Isn't that
amazing.
Crazy?
He's amazing. I mean, I can remember when I retired, we're the same draft class. I remember Calais and I sitting at the hotel for ACC Media Day in 2007, where they had like all the team captains to Pinehurst, and we were sitting up in the room drinking beer, and me and Calais, and we're like, man, we're going to play a long time. We're going to be like, we're going to be so good and all this shit. And man, it started here, bro. ACC. We're all like ACC. I'm like, I'm with you to the end, man. Well, I got to get off this fucking bus. Okay. And I'm at the NFL honors, and he rode back to the hotel with me and Meg, and just Meg got out of the car. She's like, what a nice guy. I mean, he's just the best. And he was so happy-go-lucky to just be going into year 12. Like, he was like, yeah, I want to play some more, you know, a couple more. And 38 years old playing, you think about Jason Peters playing to 41, 40, you know, but he's hanging on. To be an interior lineman, I don't think I've seen a D tackle play this long since Jeff Scanina.
Nice pull.
Yeah.
All right, that's 3 teams with relatively short odds to win
Saving
the
the best for last.
Jets, Bills, Dolphins. Now, a contender for the worst record in the league this year, if you're asking Vegas, the New England Patriots.
I just think their defense is too good for them not to win more than 4.5 games, guys. So we'll take the over on the win total with the Patriots just on the strength of like creating turnovers, and you know, these teams beat people sometimes. And I am going to pull for Gerard Mayo. That's my guy, another draft class mate right there. Pick 6 to the New England Patriots. And so now he's the head coach. He's young, right? Like the first move that those guys make is sending Judon off, which to me makes a lot of sense. By the time he's, you know, if you assign him to a big deal, by the time you're good, he's not going to be worth a lot to you. Okay, so I'm not saying it can't happen, but I thought that was the right move. Listen, there are players I like on this offense. The right side of the line's fine. You know, Sal, Onwenu. Okay, those guys are solid. There's a lot of question marks, though, up and down the line. Like Cole Strange has been up and down. I want to see him in his second year. I'm not giving up on the guy. He showed some flashes.
First rounder
for sure. And David Andrews, who's probably the last guy standing that played with Tom Brady. I don't know if there's another guy on that offense that shared a field with Tom Brady. It's amazing how quick things turn over. Now, maybe there's a couple guys that I'm not thinking of, but I like Demario Douglas outside. I think he's exciting. I respect Kendrick Bourne. They've got a couple guys. I like Stevenson. Polk is young and exciting. They talk good about Polk, but there's no point in finding out what you got with Drake May, in my opinion, with this group. Like, it is okay sometime to say, hey, we're not going to win the Super Bowl. What's our ceiling? Is it 7 wins? What's going to keep Gerard Mayo in good graces with Patriots fans, with ownership, the whole thing? Brissett can get you 6 wins, right? Like, Brissett can get – if I'm Gerard Mayo, the GOAT was just there last year, and how many games they win, right? I'm working with him now. They fired the GOAT. Like, you could improve upon last year. What an accomplishment that would be. And you might do it without even burning the bridge on the rookie quarterback and shell shocking him. I do feel like we're going to see him at some point because that's the way this thing goes. And I don't think Gerard Mayo's thinking like, I got 5 years. He's not like, Mike Shanahan coming out of retirement or something, some NFL legend. He's a young coach, and he's going to want to win games. But I would argue that with this defense, and you're talking about Keon White outside, who I'm really excited about, Gottschalk, Barmore, Jennings, like good solid group up front. Wise, you got to replace Judon, but not there in the same position. When they sent Chandler Jones away in 2016, they replaced him with guys like myself and Jabal Sheard, like old wash me, Jabal Sheard, Ninko, like we were all 5'7" sack guys. And you can survive if Wise has 5 or 6, if Jennings has a nice year, if Keon White explodes. I think Keon White could explode. And Uche, who took a step back. You can't hide him because you're afraid he can't play the run. You got to find a way to be able to use him on more than just third down. And so I just think somebody up front's got to emerge, right? But the DBs, John Jones, good dependable vet, Duggar, the linebackers, I love the linebacker room. Christian Gonzalez, who I haven't mentioned, right? They really do have some talent.
Only 4 games played last year for Christian Gonzalez.
I like Christian Gonzalez, man, and people rave about him. So they got a good nucleus, like a young nucleus. The linebackers I really like. Keon White, I think, is going to be a hell of a player. You talk about Christian Gonzalez. Duggar's a guy I love. So give this group a chance to grow and learn together, right? This is not going to be a 1-year project. And for this defense, not unlike the Jets, with everything they've been through, although they had great expectations and then had to deal with the bullshit, these guys here can spend a couple years together and say, hey, this is going to make us stronger. Us guys in this locker room, a lot's going to change around here. The offense is going to take a while. This team might take a year, it might take 2, but if we can stick together, we're going to have a nice core when things turn around. And so for New England, everything matters. Like when you're in, and as a player, I've been in plenty of these locker rooms where you're like, you're not going to win. And that's really hard. But you gotta play balls out, and you got to play like adversity is an opportunity. That's what you say. Adversity is a fucking opportunity, man. Be the guy on this defense that flies off the tape. And people are like, this guy's crazy. Why is he playing so hard? This team's bad. So I would have that attitude if I'm this defense and say, hey, let's fuck around and see how many games we can win. Another nice thing is you got your quarterback, right? So there's no talk of like, oh, we should drop this game. We should drop this game. We don't want to win too many games. Like fans talk like that. Coaches just want to win. Go out there, try to make the most of it. Learning experience, and next year stack up some more pieces. But right now, this team's not ready to win.
Adversity, if you learn to use it right, it can buy you a ticket to a place you couldn't have gotten to any other way, is what I like to say. Pats are at Bengals week 1 for your final name the spread during the AFC previews. What do you have, Cincy hosting New England?
7.5.
9, according to BetMGM.
Yeah. Well, the Bengals don't start real hot. 17-10. That's what That's copy Ocho Cinco. That's his prediction.
Yeah, totals at 40.
Yeah, well, maybe he's a little low on that. So that's it, guys. That's the North and the East.
Quick update for you guys. Duke has 3 NFL Hall of Famers: Sonny Jurgensen,
Jorgensen, got it.
Sonny.
I like the Silent J though. I've always been a Silent J guy.
George McAfee and Clarence Parker.
George McAfee. No Dave Brown, huh?
No Dave Brown.
It's a little inside joke for you Giants fans out there. Okay.
All 5 of them. Hey, take care, mate.
Hey, you too. Good luck with your pitch, which has happened in the past. I'm sure it was straight down the middle.